Assalamu alaikum, dear students. In this lecture we are going to study the leftover phrases and its types, and then we are going to study the new concept that is about the clause. So previously, in the previous lecture, I have told you about the phrases, that what is actually the phrase and what are its some of its type. That we studied about the noun phrase, the verb phrase, and an adjective phrase. So now in this lecture we are going to study about the adverb phrase, the prepositional phrase, then we will study about the concept of clause, and then we will study about the subordinate clause and the main clause. So let's begin towards the lecture. Adverb phrase. So what is a phrase? You all know that a phrase is a part of grammar, or we can say is a syntactic unit that cannot contain a subject predicate relationship. So this relationship is missing in a phrase. So an adverb phrase is simply a group of two or more words that function as an adverb in a sentence. Adverb phrases typically answer the questions how, where, why, or when something was done, as you will see in the adverb phrase examples below. So consider the following sentences. So let's take an examples. So the sentence is I parked the car. So I parked the car, there is no adverb phrase in this I parked the car. The second sentence is I parked the car here. So in this sentence, here is not an adverb phrase, it's just simply an adverb. Then the third sentence is I parked the car right here. Right here is a adverb phrase which is answering the question where. That where do I park the car? I parked the car right here under the bridge. So the first sentence does not contain an adverb or adverb phrase at all. The second sentence contains the adverb here to describe where the car was parked. The third sentence contains the adverb phrase right here, which emphasizes where the car was parked and employs a phrase instead of a single adverb. Then is an example, time goes very quickly. So here time goes how? Very quickly is an answer, so very quickly is a phrase. The day passed quickly enough. So quickly enough, how the day was passed? It passed quickly enough. So quickly enough is an adverb phrase. We walked very carefully across the floor. So how we walked? We walked very carefully. So here in very carefully is an adverb phrase. Dad will come home very late. So when dad will come home? Very late. So very late is an adverb phrase. Then comes the prepositional phrase. A prepositional phrase is a group of words that consists of a preposition, its object, which will be a noun or a pronoun, and any words that modify the object. So a prepositional phrase is actually that kind of phrase which consists of a group of words that consist of a preposition as its head and its object. The object may be the noun or a pronoun or any other words that are modifying that object. So let's take an example. So its definition is a group of words that consist of a preposition, the object of the preposition, or any modifiers modifying the object of the preposition. So the example is the genie from the brass lamp granted 3 wishes. So the sentence is the genie from the brass lamp. Here from the brass lamp is the prepositional phrase in which the head word is from and the brass lamp is its object of the prepositions, and lamp is the object, the brass is the modifier, and lamp is the object, which is a noun. So it describes the prepositional phrase describes the genie. A singer with passion. So with passion means is a prepositional phrase and it's modifying the a singer, that a singer with passion. A town near London. So near London is a prepositional phrase. The girl with red dress looks beautiful. With red dress is a prepositional phrase. Here red is a modifying word and dress is the preposition of the the object of the preposition with, and it's a noun. So with red dress is a prepositional phrase. The shop in the corner is mine. So in the corner is a prepositional phrase. So here in is the head preposition. So these are some of the examples of the prepositional phrase. So we are done with the concept of phrases and some of its main types. We have studied the noun phrase, the verb phrase, the adverb phrase, the adjective phrase, and the prepositional phrase. So now coming towards the concept of clause, that what the clause is. It is defined as a syntactic unit which has a subject-predicate relationship and is a part of a larger unit. So previously we studied that the phrase is the smallest syntactic unit, and other than phrase, the clause is the second largest unit of the sentence. The girl who is wearing glasses looks intelligent. Here who is wearing glasses is a clause because it contains a subject and predicate relationship. The shop, which is full with books, is situated near the bus stop. So which is full with books is a clause because it contains the subject predicate relationship. So then comes the dependent and independent clauses. So a dependent clause, or we can say the subordinate clause, cannot function on its own because it leaves an idea or thought unfinished. So similarly, as a phrase leaves an idea or thought unfinished, the dependent clause or the subordinate clause do the same. It is also called subordinate clause. Dependent clauses help the independent clauses complete the sentence. A dependent clause alone cannot form a complete sentence. So I bought a car which was too expensive. So which was too expensive is a clause. It contains a subject predicate relationship, but it's a dependent clause because if it's written alone, like which was too expensive, it's not giving a clear thought. It's dependent on a clause, I bought a car. So I bought a car, when it comes alone, it can stand on its own and it conveys a complete thought. But which was too expensive is not conveying a complete thought. A subordinate clause is a clause that cannot stand alone as a complete sentence. It merely complements a sentence maze clause. thereby adding to the whole unit of meaning. Because a subordinate clause is dependent upon a main clause to be meaningful, it is also referred to as a dependent clause. So a subordinate clause, or we can say the dependent clause, cannot convey meaning on its own. It's dependent on the main clause in order to convey its meaning. Like without independent clause, the dependent clause cannot convey its complete meaning. Although it contains a subject-predicate relationship that makes it a clause, but still it's dependent on independent clause in order to convey a complete thought or a complete meaning. Subordinate clauses will often begin with subordinating conjunctions, which are words that link dependent clauses to independent clauses, such as for, as, since, therefore, hence, consequently, though, due to, provided that, because, unless, once, while, when, whenever, where, wherever, before, and after. So these are some subordinating conjunctions which are used in the dependent clauses to connect it with the independent clause. They can also begin with relative pronouns such as that, which, who, whom, whichever, whoever, whomever, and whose. So the dependent clauses or subordinate clauses may begin with these words like that, which, who, whom, and etc. Spotting these words can tip you off that you are dealing with a subordinate clause rather than a main clause. So when you come across with any of these words, it's a click for you, that it's an idea, it's a trick for you, that you may spot that okay, this is starting from a subordinate conjunction or with the relative pronoun, so it's a subordinate clause or it's a dependent clause. Now moving towards the independent clause, or we can say the main clause. So the independent clause or main clause functions on its own to make a meaningful sentence and looks much like a regular sentence. So the independent clause is either an independent clause when there are more than one clause in a sentence, or when it's just a simple sentence, we can also say that either it's an independent clause or we can say it's a simple sentence, because it has the subject predicate relationship and it can stand alone on its own and conveys a complete thought. A group of words that can stand on its own as a sentence, like for example any simple sentence, like we have I like him. So I like him is a clause either, or we can say it's a sentence, like it's a simple sentence. It has a subject and it has a predicate, so it has the subject predicate relationship. He is a nice man, so it's either a simple sentence, regular sentence, or it's either a independent clause or we can say a main clause. We can all go for ice cream. It's a sentence. We can all go for ice cream. This sentence is an independent clause. We can either say it's a independent clause or we can either say it's a simple sentence. It has a subject and a verb, and on its own it presents a complete unit of meaning. All of us are able to go out and have ice cream. Like, it means that all of us are able to go out and have ice cream. But perhaps this isn't all we need to convey. For example, if I have to say, we can all go for ice cream if I can find my wallet. So if I can find my wallet adds substantially to the meaning of the sentence. It is too soon to celebrate about our ice cream outing because there is a task at hand. We have to first find that wallet. On its own, if I can find my wallet is a subordinate clause. It is not a full unit of meaning. Like if someone say, if I can find my wallet, another person asks that for which purpose, like for which, about which you are talking. So if we can say we can all go for ice cream if I can find my wallet. So that makes a sense. That makes sense that we can all go for ice cream only if I can find my wallet. So if I can find my wallet is a dependent or a subordinate clause which contains the subject predicate relationship, but it's dependent on independent clause in order to convey a complete sense, a complete thought. If it was written separately as a sentence, the result would be a sentence fragment. So if it's written alone, it may looks like a fragment, a part of a sentence, but not a complete sentence, not a complete thought. So this is all about the today's lecture. We have studied some leftover the phrases and its types. Then we studied about the clauses, and then we studied about the main or the independent clause, and then we studied about the dependent and the subordinate clause. So hopefully you all have get the concept of clauses from this video. These are some references. You can take a guide from these references as well, that if you want to add more about the concepts of clauses or the concepts of phrases, you can go to these websites. You can search more, or rather other than these, you can also Google by yourself that what is the phrase and its type, and what are the clauses, and what are the dependent and the independent clauses. So this is all about the today's lecture. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.